Hey, everybody. Usually I get to visit your class in person and talk about technology, different types of things that you would do in technology. I know you obviously have to be somewhat interested in this thing because you signed up for either a coding class that you're sitting in right now, a vo-tech class in networking or programming, or you're in some guidance office and your guidance counselor said, oh, I heard you were interested in technology. Here's someone that knows tech. So I usually get to be in person with you, and I miss that, and I didn't want to let that go this year. So I made this video, which I am calling the Tech Career Exploratory. And it's pretty much the same thing I do every year. I've been doing this for years. And I just love talking to people that are interested in tech and just kind of give them a behind the scenes look at some of the things you would actually do if you wanted to go into a field with computers. You are going to have to get a job at some point soon in your life. And I really wish for you that you get to do something that you really enjoy and that you're interested in. So let's see what I have here. Now, I want to start off by saying this is sponsored by SouthHills School of Business and Technology. And that is a school where I teach computer technology. We have various programs in business, in medical and healthcare, in engineering technology and computer technology. We have graphic arts, and we have criminal justice. And we're a small school. We do specialized associate's degrees, and our classes are small, and we're really focused on getting students ready and prepared for entry-level employment and entry-level jobs. So that's really what we do. So if you don't know what you're doing after high school yet, you should at least just check us out. We have a lot of different programs for a lot of the things that I'm going to be talking about today. And you can check out the website at www.southhills.edu. You can scan that QR code, which will go to a form where you can ask me questions. You can visit a class of mine. You can come visit the school. Or you can just follow up from this presentation if you have a question about tech or a question about a certain career path. I'm up to talk about this stuff. I love this stuff. So just reach out to me if there's something that you need. And I'll put that up at the end of this presentation too. Okay, let's go on. Let's go on. So how's this going to work? I want to describe the tech jobs, and then I want to explore the tech jobs by doing a demo. I want to show you things that they'd actually do. Now, right now, I'm going to run through the jobs, and then at the end, we'll do the demo. I should be able to fit this in just one period of class. So probably in about 40 minutes. So let's get started. Information technology. IT. Now, what the heck is this? So if I had to summarize it, it is keeping all the tech running. Think about businesses and organizations. Like everywhere you look, there are computers. These people have to keep that running. And the users have to be happy. We have to get them the software that they need, and we have to train them and help them. And when things break, we have to fix it. So what are the types of job titles in this? Systems administrator, cloud or server administrator, a network technician, a data center technician. Someone does have to be around to connect everything together. Someone has to be around to install the software, maintain the machines. Where are we going to buy our next computers? Are we going to buy Mac? Are we going to buy PC? Are we going to use Windows? Are we going to use Linux? There are so many decisions to be made. You are the tech person. You're the local tech guru. And then wiring and wireless and phones and audio visual, like that's all computerized today. And you might just be help desk. You answer the phone, you answer a chat, you answer an email with people having problems with their systems and their computers and their stuff. That is what IT is. Pretty much a little bit of everything with computer systems. And how can we help our organizations that we work for get the job done? That's IT. Now there's also, what is this web and design? Now, some people might go into web design, some people might just do graphic design. It's like, let's make beautiful things. Let's make new websites. Let's make the internet, let's make the web bigger by putting more stuff on it. So you have titles like web designer and graphic designer and web app developer and user interface, user experience designer. And these people just love the web. They love working in pixels, and they love choosing colors, and they love picking the fonts that they're going to use, and they're trying to figure out how I'm going to get that same look on a mobile device. It's a little bit of programming. It's a little bit of knowing how the web actually works, but it's a lot of design as well. And that is web and design. This is such a huge thing. We know the web is everywhere, and people have to make it. And these people make it. Software development. Now, these are the people that love coding, that love to break problems down into smaller little chunks, and then each little chunk they turn into computer language, and then they give that to the computer. And the computer says, I'll do that really fast, anytime you want. Just tell me to run it. Okay, so if I had to summarize software development, it's someone saying, my code, it's going to connect things together. It's going to connect computers. It's going to connect systems. It might even connect people together. It's not going to crash. It's going to be super fast. And it's going to solve the problem the best way that it could today. And I'll tell you, software is everywhere. Programs are everywhere. They're kind of the glue that holds all of this technology stuff together. You have job titles like software developer and full stack engineer, and you might specialize in mobile apps or machine learning, being a machine learning engineer, or a DevOps engineer, where you're writing DevOps is developer operations. So you're writing code for all the other programmers to essentially make their work easier, quicker, better. So again, software development people, they don't really care so much always what their code's doing. They just really enjoy sitting behind the computer and solving puzzles, solving problems all day, using programming languages, using computer languages. And it's almost like learning a different language. You have to learn how to interact with the machine. And then you sit and you solve these problems, you break them down. And you sit behind a computer most of the day solving problems, but people really find it fun, the people that are in this. So that is software development. I'm going to show you some of that in a little bit in the demo. Okay, data. Now, what is data, and why is this a whole career path in technology? I think a person that works in data all day would say things like, a picture is worth 1,000 words. I look for patterns. I find value in the data to help my organization succeed. And you think about it, there is data everywhere. Computers are collecting data about us all day long. Every time we use a credit card, every time we scan into something, probably when we had lunch together in the lunch line, you might scan a code and that goes into a computerized system. If you keep all that data, it can help you make decisions. It can help the business and the organization make decisions about what, they don't know what to do always. Well, let's look to see what's happening. So a data person would create charts. They would write computer codes too to pull up data, finding patterns, and then present that so then we can make effective decisions so we can get our job done better and easier and faster. And you can see these different titles. We have database admin, we have a data engineer, we have a data scientist, and they focus on slightly different parts of this. But just like web and design, whenever I talked about, they just want to make the web bigger because we all know that the web is everywhere. There is data being collected everywhere. So these are the specialists that work in that create that keep it running. And then we have security. Now, security is an interesting one. Security is a specialty, but it also has to be with everything. I mean, when the internet was first created, when software was first developed, everyone was just friendly. We were all just friends. No one would mess with anybody. Maybe they would mess with each other, but it would be like for a joke. It wouldn't be like, I'm going to encrypt all your data and you better give me $1 million or else I'm deleting it and you'll never see it again. I mean, that's happening right now today. Not everybody are friends. So we need security. And security is typically broken up into two different teams. A blue team, which is defense, and a red team, which is offense. And blue team titles, security analyst, compliance manager, like, are we following our own rules to be secure? We have vulnerability assessment people that actually go around and look for vulnerabilities and find threats. There are incident responders and disaster recovery specialists. Like, if we do get hacked, I need to have someone there that knows how to deal with that incident. And I need to know someone's there to deal with that disaster. Can they get my system up and running quickly? Because I got to keep on doing my work. So besides defense, there's also offense. There's red team. And these are the people that get paid to legally break in to computer systems. And they're really doing it to show the faults, to show the problems, to show the weaknesses of the security systems. And you have titles like the bug bounty hunters, you have pen testers, and they actually break in. They use the same techniques that a hacker would use. Some malicious hacker would try to break in. They study what those are, and they use those, and they say, just be glad that I'm not the hacker and I'm the one helping you find these problems. That's security in a nutshell. And like I said, it's a big area. It's popular right now because every other thing that I would have talked about, the web, networking, IT, programming, the cloud, all of that stuff of the tech, it has to be secured. And then we have quality and testing. Okay, now this is not, you may have not heard of this. This is something, I know you've probably heard of IT and you've heard of programming and you've heard of computer security and the web. Quality and testing. Now, these are teams of specialists that take the products that the technologists make and they just make sure they're actually really good. See, if I'm a programmer and I just spent 20 hours writing this awesome new app, I think it is so awesome and it's perfect and there's nothing that could be wrong with it. Because I just spent 20, 40 hours, I don't know how many hours with it, but I've spent a lot of time with it and it has to be perfectly polished and great. But that's me. Like, I'm going to make a mistake. I'm not going to see everything because I'm the person that created it. So we have teams of specialists that literally try to not break into systems like the security pen testers, but they just break software. Like they try to break it so they see where it needs improved. And plus, it's just another set of eyes, and they try various different experiments and tests. Like, oh, I only tested it on my iPhone. Well, what about an Android device? Well, the tester will test everything. And whenever they pull the program up on Android or the app on Android, it just like breaks. And then they have to go back to the programming team and say, I found a defect. Same thing, you may have heard of this in game design, where computer games and companies that do this will pay people to play the game and find problems with the game so they can fix it before they generally release it to everybody to play. So, same thing too. What about you have a program? Yeah, I can use it, but what if a million people are using it at the same time? What happens there? So you have QA tester, you have performance engineer, you have reliability engineers that are just really there to make sure that this thing never fails. And if it does, they're there to pick up the pieces and put it back together again. That's quality, that's testing, and that is a big part of, creating new products and technology, creating new software and technology. It looks like we're at the end of this part. Okay, I am going to definitely rock some demos right now because I want to go back through a lot of what I just showed you, and I want to show you what activities, what kind of things would these people be doing? What would a programmer be doing? What would a networker be doing? What would a security person be doing? Well, before I do that, I just wanted to stop here and give you my information. So, my name is Guido Santella, and I do teach at SouthHills. You can email me if you want to follow up about any of this stuff. If you have questions about this, like I said, I do love this stuff. It's been such a rewarding career for me. I just love to share. I also love where I teach. I love SouthHills. I really like what we do there. It's a neat place. I get to teach the way that I want to. A lot of it is hands-on, in front of the computer, building stuff. Working with this technology directly. That's what I try to do in my classroom. So if you're interested at all in that, scan that QR code. It'll go out to a form, and you'll see. You can ask for a tour, you can talk to me, you can ask me a question, whatever you want. Just select it from a drop list, put it in there, and just hit send. And I'll reach out to you directly. So let's go do some demos, because that is fun. Okay, guys, I'll see you in the demos. Okay, let's do a security demo. Okay, now we talked about blue team, but red team is much more interesting. Like, how am I not necessarily going to defend the network? How am I going to break into the network? What am I going to do? So here on the screen, I have an operating system that is Linux, but it is a special type of Linux called Kali, which has hundreds of security tools, testing tools, hacking tools, auditing tools. You can even see up here, if I open up the different tools, we have things like information gathering, we have things like password and wireless attacks, reverse engineering, forensics. And we're going to look at some information gathering, because that's the first part of essentially any break-in. You have to scope the place out. What does it have? What is the system? You have to look around and try to find even targets that you will try to find that might let you in easier. And a hacker's always going to come in with the path of least resistance. They're not going to go through the hardest, most secure vault door. They're going to go in some easy back door that you happen to leave open. So we need to find all the doors. We need to find all the things. So I do have to do a disclaimer. You cannot run many of these tools unless you have permission. So don't try this at home unless you're like essentially trying to break into your own network or you have permission to. So I am at a prompt. Now, Linux is an operating system that much of it is controlled via commands. So you can type things like ls and it lists the directory. You can clear, which clears out all of the output. But I'm going to run a networking command called ping, and I am going to ping the website where I teach at SouthHills. Now, when I do this, it's a networking command. It's okay. This one's okay to run. You guys can run this one. But it also tells me information. I'm just pinging their website, southhills.edu. And look at what it told me. That's the name that you would type in to go to the website. But it looks like it also has another name called Nomad. It then gives me its unique address on the internet, its numeric address called an Internet Protocol address, an IP address. I now know that. And then I also know that it looks like they're using Comcast Business as the internet service provider. So just by doing a basic network command, one little command, a ping essentially just goes out to the machine and it says, are you there? If you are, send me back some information. And then the reply comes back and it says, yeah, I'm here. Here you go. So it really just guarantees that you can talk to the machine. And it tells you more. There's Nomad. So now I'm like, what is Nomad? Okay, it's great. I mean, there's the website. We all know that there would be a website there. There's SouthHills website. Excellent. But what's Nomad? Maybe it's a different thing. Nomad.southhills.edu. Ah, this is something different. See, we're already exploring. We're trying to figure out what's there. There's a student document center. There's a learning management system. Hey, if it's really easy to break into the learning management system and get into their network, that's how I'm doing it. And then they would have to secure that. But I need to go after more targets. I want to see what else is around, not just Nomad, not just these extra 2 places that I found. There's Docs. There's CourseWeb. That's a place. That's that. There's username and password. I can try admin and admin. Gosh, I hope it doesn't let me in. No, it doesn't let me in. But sometimes people literally don't change default passwords. And that would let me right in. Okay. So here's what I'm going to try next. Let me use a tool from Kali. So there's an information gathering tool called DNS Map. And I am going to run it against southhills.edu. And what it's going to do, it's going to attempt to guess other names associated with SouthHills. And then it is essentially me looking for other targets. Again, I'm looking for the weakest points that the blue team would have to come in and secure. And look at what it already found. It found admin.southhills at this internet address. It found backup at this internet address. It found email. Okay, you wanted their email? You probably have their email now. email.southhills.edu. There it is. And if I know how to get in through Outlook, then that's something that I would have to have the blue team secure. And there's things like Gateway. And I don't know what else is going to come out of this, but it will try a whole bunch of different common names and then just tell me. There's one called Login. So this is the first kind of way that a pen tester would, they really just snoop around, seeing what's there. This is some of the things that a pen tester would do. Hey everybody, let's look at a demo for someone that works with the web. Maybe they're a designer of the web, maybe they're a web developer. So you can see this. They are looking at some code. The code is what makes the web page look the way it does. Okay, and I just want to show you here, it's not that difficult. So I guess, how do I run this? Let's see. I'm going to hit refresh. Okay, so it did this effect at the bottom. It ran this effect. Now this effect was created in code. So you can see up here on the left, like there's HTML, there's CSS in the middle, and then there's also JavaScript. Now these are the three main languages of the internet, of the web. There is no JavaScript in this one, so I'm gonna just move this out here a little bit like this so you can see a little bit better. Let me move this away. If you want to change what this web page will look like, because it's just a full web page, you can just go change it right here. Maybe instead of "I'm a passionate web developer," you would say something like I'm a web designer. And when that refreshes down here, now it says I'm a web designer. Okay, cool. But designers design. They change things. They change colors. They change fonts. And how do they do that? They do it with these codes. Okay, so you can see here's actually the font. They're pulling in a font from Google. I bet you if I break this, if I take that code away, I bet you it won't look the same. See how it looks a little different? So I'll put it back. Looks a little different. Now let me go down here. What about the body of the HTML? Now, what is the body? It's like all this stuff in the background. It's the whole web page. So right now, the background color is based off red, green, and blue. So if I dial up red the whole way, it can go up to 255. You see now there is more red as part of that color. Okay, so maybe you like that, maybe you don't like that. Let me try this. Let me try background. And I'm going to do a linear gradient. And I'm going to do a gradation of color from black to white. Let's see if that works. Yeah, check it out. And then essentially what that's doing is just going from a dark color at the top down to white at the bottom. It's just doing a gradation of color. And they might like that, they might hate that. They just keep on working until it looks the way that it is supposed to work. Now there's more. This whole little animation effect, it's in the code. We just got to go find it. Oh, there's animation typewriter. Okay, so what's going on here? There's an animation. It's taking 4 seconds maybe with 40 steps. Okay, there's a blinking cursor that blinks 500 milliseconds. Maybe I can slow it down by making it 1 second to blink. Let's see if the cursor goes slower. Yep. And then what about this one? Can I make the whole animation of the typewriter to be 2 seconds instead of 4 seconds? Yeah, it's faster now. And instead of 40 little individual steps, let me make it 100, and it will be a much smoother animation. You can see. So that's a little bit of what the designer does. They're gonna like the colors. They're gonna change the colors. They're gonna change the font. They're gonna like do the layout a little differently. They're gonna have to use these codes. Okay, so let's look at some data. Maybe some data-driven decisions. What would these data people do? Well, the reason why I'm not in your class is because of this COVID thing. So I'm at a website. It's public information provided by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And it is about daily current cases as reported by the different counties. So every day they update this from the previous day's data. So watch what I can do. I can view into that data. Now remember, someone would have had to build this. Someone would have had to organize this information. But you can see there are records, and there's not just like 20. There are hundreds. There's actually thousands. There's 21,000 records from every county, every day, organized by the number of new cases, the average cases, etc. Now, I could send this to somebody, but it would just be hard to work through. Like, how can you figure out this information? And why, I'm in Central PA. Why do I care about Lehigh County? I might just want to look at our local counties here in Central PA. So what can I do with this data? Well, let's say I'm gonna use it to get some better information. So I'm gonna go to something called Visualize. And I'm gonna launch a new visualization. And there's a whole set of tools. Like, I don't have to build this from scratch. I can just utilize tools that other software developers and information technology people have built for me, which is great. We all work as one big team. So I'm going to select what I want to connect, what I want to utilize. So I'm going to pick jurisdiction because that is the county. So I see all of the counties. Now this graphic does not look very helpful to me. So maybe I'll make it a pie chart. Okay. Getting a little bit better looking. I see all the counties. And what do I want to measure of each county? Well, I am going to measure the new cases. Okay, here's my new cases. But this doesn't look exactly right. There were not 94,000 new cases today in Philadelphia County. Well, that's because I'm looking at all the data. So what do I want to do is eliminate most of it. I only want to look at yesterday's data. So I go to filters and I add a filter. And I just go to the date filter and I say, let me just, let's see here. I don't want to range. Let me go to yesterday. So I hit apply. And now I have yesterday's data. But again, I don't care about every single county in Pennsylvania in my local region. I'm going to add yet another filter. So you can see how I'm building out these kind of data representations. So I'm going to filter by jurisdiction, and I'm going to select Blair County. See if I can do more than one. I should be able to. Center County. Bedford County. Cambria County. I'm probably missing someone close, but let's see, Huntington County. And when I apply this, I only have the local counties that are close to me. And it looks like as of yesterday, there were 61 cases in Blair County, 40 new cases in Center County, 34 in Cambria. So you can see this is now a dynamic graph. It's a chart that I could put on a website, I could use to inform my decisions. And we just took that whole bunch of data that didn't make too much sense. And now we have a much better way of representing what we're looking at. That's what a data person would do. Okay, everybody, let's write some code. Let's look at software development. Now, like I said, software development ties things together. Programming is like the glue that holds all of this tech together. So you're going to see a lot of similarities to other things we've done. So I have up here, I have a web page. I have this thing that says, when I run it, it says random dog picture. Okay, that's great. You can see it's coming in from this HTML. Inside this HTML, I'm just going to minimize this to make it a little simpler. This is just the metadata of the web page, nothing too great there. But I have the body of the web page, and I have in it a section for our app, and I have in that a heading tag, which just makes this heading. So nothing fancy. But at the bottom, I do have some JavaScript. So I have a library that I want to use because I don't want to do this all from scratch. And I have my own script tag, which has some code in it that's going to make this web page interactive. And what is it going to do? It's going to get a random dog picture and put it on the screen. Now, how is it going to get that? Now, I could program the whole thing myself. But there is, unbelievably, there is a website called random.dog. And they do show you pictures of random.dogs. But they also provide you with a way to get data for a random dog picture by giving you the file size in bytes and the URL to a JPEG or a GIF or something that has a random dog. So if I refresh, there's another one, there's a different one, there's a different one. So here's my thing. How am I going to get that data given to us by this other this service on the internet that's just doing this, it's providing this to me? How am I going to bring it in to my application to kind of hook it up, hook it together? Well, this is where my coding comes into play in my script. So let's look at the script. Now I started it out. First section here hooks up to the app element. So it just tells us this code will run for this section. Then we need to store that data somewhere. I'm going to store it in something called dog because it is a dog. It's in our data section. And then this created section will run when the web page starts up, is created, and it's ready to go. Now here is where I'm going to fetch that data. So I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to grab this reference. I'm going to pull it into this. And my web application, when it is created, it will go and fetch new data from random.dog and pull it into itself. And then once it pulled it in, it's going to get the response. It's going to pull the data off that response. And when it pulls the data off that response, it's going to log that to the console, which is down here. So watch what happens now when I refresh and run this. Hey, check it out. The data that was coming out here is now automatically being fetched, automatically being pulled down into my application right here. Well, that's not where I want it. I want it on my web page. I want it to be dynamically created. Well, how am I going to do that? Well, instead of consoling to the log, or logging to the console actually, I would set the dog that is right here. I want to set the dog data to be the data that came down. Just a simple assignment statement. Now, I know this code looks a little funny and different. If you've never seen it, yes, it looks a little strange, but this is what you would learn. You learn how to interact with these computer systems through code. It's actually quite simple. So now I have it set up. I can go back to this and I can do things like, let me make a paragraph. And I'm going to do this where it's going to replace dog file size bytes. So I want to see if I can pull that into my app. And I'll just say something like file size. And let me run it. Okay, we got the file size. I run it again, it's a different file size. Well, I don't just want the file size. I want the actual image. So this library I'm using to make this a little bit easier has a quick little shortcut. So I will really just say, I want, what is it? Dog URL maybe, let me check. Yep, URL. So dog URL. And that should generate me an image based on what it pulled down from that site. Now let's see if it works. Run. There we go. Well, picture's too big. Nice. Run it again. There's another one. Okay, so we should adjust that in a way because these pictures are so big. They're not showing up. So remember, look at this web page. It's not that, it doesn't look that fancy. It's not that good. But a web designer, a graphic designer would spend time making it look nice. So that's where they would go into this other file and they would write some codes. I'm going to have to pull those up. Let me pull up the code that we used on that last project. So let's pull that code in. And now if I run it, I have our other graphics, our other look, and it looks better. It looks nice. So our designers came to the rescue. We wrote the code. And that's how these different specialists work together. Okay, so what's next? Well, the information technology team would be tasked to get that code online. Get the random dog app on the web so everyone can use it. So they'd go over to this cloud provider. This is the cloud. This is what the cloud looks like. This is one way to interact with the cloud. It's just a website. A lot of scripts and a lot of code underneath the hood. And the IT team would create a cloud server. They'd pick their favorite operating system. They'd choose how big that server has to be. $5 a month for less than a penny an hour gets you a gig of RAM, 1 CPU, 25 gigs of solid state storage. In New York, Amsterdam, Singapore, London, Frankfurt, Toronto, I'm going to put it in New York. It's closer to me. I'm going to pick a password that is secure because if you don't, there are bots all over the internet right now that will try to break in with commonly used passwords, and you will be hacked in an hour or less. I'm going to call this thing web server because it's going to serve up the web, and I am going to create it. And it takes about 2 minutes to get this thing running, but it will come back with a unique number for the internet. It's called an Internet Protocol address or just an IP address. Now, once I get that address, I'm going to connect to the server, tell it to install a little bit of software so it can host that website for me. But right now, this is accessible all over the world. It just can't support a website until I install a little bit of software. So let's connect. So I'm going to go out to a program that knows how to connect to these types of servers. I'm going to connect to that number, and I'm going to log in. Typing in my password. And I am in. I am in. So this is how we interact with many of these servers out there. It's just a command line interface. So we have to learn some commands. I want to install something, so I use this utility called apt, and I apt install this web software called Nginx. I'm going to tell it, yes, I want to do it. And it's going out to the internet. It's downloading the software that makes this server a web server to host files. Now, while it's finishing up, all I have to do is take our code, all those different pieces of our code, and just move it over. So let's move it over. I'm going to go to this tool, and I know where I need to put the files. So on this machine, I am navigating the server right now, essentially the folders of the server. And I'm going to go to something that looks like www, and then something that looks like HTML. I'm going to delete the one file that's there. And then I pulled this up already. I downloaded those 3 files already. I am just going to watch this. I'm just going to drag them over. Can I get that to stick? Yeah, there we go. Just dragging them over. And there they are. 3 files. That small app. And then when I go back to that number on the internet, this is like full circle. Everyone was involved in this project. I go out to the internet, I put that number in a browser, and I hit enter. And we see a random dog picture. And if I hit refresh, I see a different random dog picture. So that's where I'll leave it, everybody. I hope you learned something. Thanks for listening. And whatever you do, I wish you the best. And I will put up my contact information. And seriously, if you want to reach out, if you have questions about any of this, just let me know.